wait for something to happen, my friends. I decided to make an educational, or let's call it some sort of guide for people, and in particular for skeptics and so-called debunkers, to keep in mind regarding airplanes that are not airplanes. What do I mean by that? I mean UFOs posing to be airplanes, of course. Oh yeah. And there are many airplanes that are not airplanes in the skies. They are actually UFOs, and most people can't tell them apart because they lack fundamental scientific knowledge about three-dimensional objects, angle, physics, and well, gravity, to be honest. There are some basic things the skeptics and even and also believers need to know regarding basic physics and how things move that are three-dimensional. And here I'm going to give an example of the most typical debunker explanation to genuine UFO sightings that get debunked as fake or hoax because people think that it's an airplane coming from the front with the spotlights on. I'm going to show you the typical explanation that people don't seem to understand, that it's not possible according to physics. If it's a normal airplane, that is. If you're using anti-gravity or some other advanced engine that makes you bend the laws of nature, then you can turn and rotate you this way, of course, but not a conventional airplane can do it. And here comes the example. This is what most people see when an airplane comes their direction. So let's say it's coming above the treetops like this. And here's where most skeptics believe that UFOs are only airplanes seen from the front. And if you think about it, most of my sightings, which are genuine UFO sightings according to most people, and according to my own experience, of course, they travel like this. I'm gonna keep the camera still. They travel from like this. And if this is an airplane, a conventional passenger jet, this is against the laws of physics. If you have the conventional engines they use, it makes no sense. Naturally, the plane has to turn, and when it turns, it heads like this. You see, it turns, and if it's dark, you will see some kind of spotlight reaching out from the airplane. Not always, but sometimes in pitch darkness you see the actual beam of light from when it turned like this. It turns and you see the light. And the shape changes of the plane, the airplane, the normal airplane. It becomes more like a stick from a distance. And you can see a blinking light in the front of the plane. Sometimes you see the blinkers on the wings, they're red and green. But this is where it gets tricky, and this is where all UFO debunkers fail completely to explain how it's possible that an airplane can do this feat, and where all skeptics don't seem to have the basic knowledge about science. Most sightings that are saucers that pretend to be airplanes, they use this movement. They come in, you see them, and then start pulsating. It's not a solid light like this one, it's a pulse, it pulsates. And then it moves like this. And anybody with a brain would know that an airplane can't do this, a normal airplane. It's impossible. It has to be some kind of advanced military jet that, for example, Harrier or some Russian air stealth plane, they can move sideways like this. They use special engines for that. But no normal airplane can do that. You can't move like this. So that's why most skeptics think that it's a spotlight from the front, but they don't understand that a normal airplane can't move like this. It can't move. It has to turn. It has to turn like this. It has to turn. So you will see the spotlight for a while coming to your direction, and then it turns. With the UFO, it's not the same. The UFO keeps like this. It stays like this in this position. And it can travel like this, like this, like this, or like this, or even like this. Sometimes like this. Sometimes like this. And yes, they do have the ability to turn because they are three-dimensional physical crafts, unless they are interdimensional, have interdimensional technology. And I'm not going into that topic right now, but the UFOs, they travel like this. And it's easy for them to fool people that are ignorant to science this way, because for example, what you're seeing, what you believe is the spotlight from the airplane from the front, is actually the plasma, the electromagnetic energy you see radiating from the craft itself. So it looks like it could be mistaken for a spotlight, but it's actually a giant orb of energy. And behind the giant orb of energy, there could be anything like an triangular craft, a boomerang-shaped craft, and saucer craft. In my case, there's often a saucer hiding behind the pulse light, which people think is just a spotlight from the front coming this way from the distance, but it's actually a saucer flying like this, and the bubble that it creates with the energy around it is actually interpreted as a two-dimensional image, but it is in fact a three-dimensional object behind it. So it passes by like this, and it fools people over and over and over again. When a normal airplane has to turn like this, it comes here from the front, it turns. The UFOs, like I said, they go like this, or like this, or like this, and behind it is the actual craft. This is a good example. If you pretend that the light from the front is the actual orb, then you can imagine also that the silvery object behind it with the battery and all of that technical stuff is the actual saucer. In the darkness, you don't see the silver that well. You don't see it unless you have night vision or a very good telescope or something like that. So naturally you see only the two-dimensional image of the light in front of it, but you don't see the three-dimensional craft that is behind this movement. But somehow people think that an airplane can keep on moving like this. It's against the laws of nature for a normal conventional airplane to do this. It's basic science, people. This is how many UFOs disguise themselves as airplanes. And some of them can't even blink. They put on blinkers. And that's even more weirder, because it's a saucer moving sideways, blinking, and having the front light, which people think is the front light. It's actually the orb. You see the orb and the blinking lights. It's an illusion. It's called trickery. They are tricksters. They trick with your mind. They are using illusions, but it's just simple illusions if you're and have an analytic mind and can see through the illusions. You see, that's just child play. To be honest, it's child play. Anybody should be able to figure out how they do it. And some crafts are just energy and all of that stuff, but I'm not going into that. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to know exactly how they do it. I've just figured out the basics. Most people should figure out the basics. There are books called everything, Science for Dummies, whatever. I'm not a scientist. I'm not into science in speaking on that level. I'm not into science. I don't want a PhD or trying to make it into a university or anything like that. But I believe most people need basic scientific knowledge. And the UFO debunkers and skeptics don't have it. They think they are scientists. They think they use the left brain to a very extensive level, but they are very basic. They don't know much about science. Real scientists knows a lot about science, but they do not come out with their theories and research themselves because, well, as we all know, you get ridiculed, mocked and hated and flamed for being out public and open with your identity regarding UFO experiences. And if you've seen this stuff, your life is over if you don't manage to profit from it. You won't get jobs again. You will be the laughing stock, or you will be the village fool. Because people, well, they are not yet very open to this. There is a high level of indoctrination going on that teaches people that airplanes can do this stupid stuff like this. It teaches people that Chinese Latins can travel in all weather conditions and that they can do all kind of feats. And well, we all know the debunker theories by now. And I hope this advice has helped out a bit now. Hopefully we get to record something. I get to record something soon and I'll keep waiting. Thanks for watching this. Goodbye.